Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kasha. For those of you who are watching my videos for the first time, I'm so excited that you're here. So today, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, I am doing my first sit down video on my channel. I'm so excited to be filming this for you guys, and I'm going to be talking about getting pregnant at 20, and then also like finances, buying our first home, kind of how we did it, and just kind of like sharing more of my story in more detail. So to start out, let me give you some background. I am currently 22. Joe, my husband, he is 25. And then we have one little boy who is 21 months old. He is the joy of our life. Everything revolves around him, and that is just our little family right now. So basically, ever since I have shared on my Instagram that we have moved and that we bought our own house, Joe and I together, I have had questions just kind of like how we did it, what were our like finances, how we were able to do it, and just like all the things. So I'm gonna kind of like touch on that in this video, and then I'll also share a little bit of background because I did share in my previous nursery tour video that we got pregnant unplanned. I was 20 years old, and kind of like going into more detail because I always know people are curious, people want to know more, and I am an open book and I will share with you guys as much as possible. So if you see me looking down in this video, it's because I made a little cheat sheet for myself with everything that I kind of like want to cover, while also like trying to not talk your ear off and just make sure that I cover all the points that I do want to talk about. So let's start about talking about getting pregnant at 20. So we got pregnant when I was 20 years old. I was going to Bradley University at the time. I was in nursing school. It was already my sophomore year, and basically we found out we were expecting in January, so it was right around when the second semester of sophomore year started. It was unexpected, unplanned, but at the same time, we were not like totally devastated. We were excited. I've always wanted to be a mom. Joe always wanted to be a dad. We wanted to start a family together. It's just, it was kind of earlier than what we had planned for ourselves, but we knew that we wanted to make it work and build a family together from that point on. We had been dating already for 2 years at that point, so our relationship was still fresh, but we still knew that we wanted to be committed to each other and basically start our family from there. So I was going to Bradley at the time. We decided that I needed to come home and start transferring as many credits as possible just to be able to go to school somewhere closer to home, because there was no way that we were going to be able to like move out to Peoria and like have a life and a house and live and survive and like be able to sustain ourselves there. So we made the decision to come home, or I made the decision to come home, and then Joe at the time was also starting school back up again, but he made the decision that he was going to go to work full-time in order to start saving money. We didn't really have a plan at this point. We just kind of knew that we needed to move and be closer to home and be together, but also at the same time make sure that we start to financially become more stable, because at this point we did not have like any savings together. I was a college student, Joe was working, he was planning on going back to school. There was really no savings because in that moment like we didn't really need savings, if that makes sense. So now that we had a family on the horizon to happen in 9 months' time, we knew that we had to start getting our lives together. So I moved home, and we decided with my parents, and our whole family was very supportive in this. When we told them the news, they were excited, honestly, if I can say anything. They were excited to be grandparents. It was my parents' first grandbaby. On Joe's side, they have already had previous grandchildren, but it was just exciting. It was just another family member, something to look forward to. We weren't like super young, so we knew that we could handle being parents, and we're all very excited. And my parents decided that they were going to take us in, so Joe and I, we moved in with them. And when Joey was born, we lived with them for about a year and a half. And then when Joey was about like a year and a half old, that is when we moved into the new house and are living in where we currently are. So I'm sitting in our bedroom right now. But during the whole entire course of my pregnancy, before I get into like finances and things like that, we had made goals that we did want to eventually move. We didn't want to live with my parents for like years and years to come. We wanted to become as financially stable as possible. And even though we also did want to be continuing going to school, we knew that we needed to try and make both work. So that way we didn't have to live with my parents and we could like have our own space. Obviously living with my parents and being taken in and having the help financially to not have to pay for rent and everything like that was great, but everyone knows that like ultimately you want to move out and be able to sustain yourself on your own. So we did make that a huge priority. And Joe was working 2 jobs at the time when I was pregnant, and I was not working when I was pregnant. COVID was very new. They didn't know much about it. So we decided that ultimately the best decision for me, since I was pregnant and there was not much information about it, that I was going to stay home. So that is what I did. And then once Joey was born, Joe was only working 1 job. He quit his like weekend job and he started going back to school again. So he started doing school, he was working, we had a baby, and I, for like the first like 6 months, well, like the semester of school had already started. The fall semester had started of school when I had Joey. So I was home during that whole fall semester, if that makes sense. And then I decided that up in the spring, I would start nursing school back up. And I basically had to start it from scratch. So during those like first 6 or however long, those like 16 weeks, I was home learning how to take care of Joey, learning how to be a mom, learning how to love on a little newborn, and just like all the parenting things, all the emotions, how to control all of that. And then I started school back up again with the help of my mom, who was basically, when I was doing school, she was helping with Joey. And then when Joe and I were obviously like home, didn't have any school to do, weren't like going to work or anything like that, we were obviously parenting Joey. So it was just kind of like a multiple parenting thing. We were all helping each other, and honestly it worked great because now my mom is able to watch Joey no problem, and like I don't have to worry that he's gonna cry. So that bond is there, which I am very grateful for. It was just like that. We were all living together. My sister was living with us. It started getting kind of chaotic, I'm not gonna lie. It's, you know, 2 families under 1 roof. It starts getting a little bit chaotic, you know, you start bickering, things start getting a little bit more heated. And once Joe and I had gotten through the first, like that whole year, so Joey was born, I was with him, and then I went back to school for a full semester, and then the summer hit. We decided that we were going to be like more serious in looking to financially become more independent. So basically for that first summer, so at this point Joey was almost a year old, we were planning our wedding. Joe and I got married in August of 2021, so we are coming up on a year of marriage this August in 2022. So we were planning a wedding, and he was working just 1 job, and then I started to go to work too, and I was also working. And then my mom at this time, she was helping me with Joey and like taking care of him when we were both at work. And basically Joe was working full-time and I was working basically full-time too. So that summer it was kind of stressful, it was kind of hard. There was a lot on our plate, planning a wedding, trying to go to work, save as much money as possible, and then become as independent as we possibly could within the next couple of months. So we made that a really big goal. We started working, and so basically now like getting into the whole like financial part, how we were able to move, how we made all of that work. So basically we got married in August of 2021. After our wedding, we started school back up again in the fall semester, both Joe and I. And then during that time period, I was not working at all because I needed to be home with Joey and provide for him as a mom as much as I could. And Joe was still going to work. So at this point I was not working, Joe was still working his 1 job, but he went down to like part-time to be able to do school and work at the same time. Also, I'm going to add, Joe's place of work has been very kind to us and very generous, and they knew our whole situation. And Joe, being the hard worker he is, they were helping us as well by being so lenient with like his schedule, so he could manage doing school and being a dad at the same time. So that is kind of what helped us find like that part-time full-time groove, and like switching between the different months depending on like what time of like year it was, whether he was going to school or he could work full time, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he was working, I was not. And then about like halfway through that fall semester, we were very serious that like we wanted to move, we wanted to become independent. And at this point we knew that we had enough money in our bank accounts to be able to sustain ourselves with still not both working full-time, if that makes sense. And the way that we were able to do this is, like I said, during my pregnancy, Joe was working 2 jobs. We were not paying for rent. We were very fortunate in that my parents were not obviously charging us for rent, and we were still paying for like some of our groceries, just like things like that. Anything that like we wanted to buy for ourselves, we were doing that. Anything that we needed to buy Joey, like diapers, basically anything like essential, we were buying, but we were saving everything else and not spending unnecessary money. Obviously, we did have some costs associated with the wedding, so that was also like played a big factor in it. But then after we were able to like work more after our wedding, when we went back to school and Joe was still working, we were able to like save up more money and kind of like replenish some funds, if that makes sense. And then also during this time, not spending like mindless money, only buying the necessities that we needed for us, for Joey. So that is how we were able to save money during those like couple of years, or like a year and a half, if you will. So at this point, we are a couple months into the semester and we are starting to look to move out and get a place of our own. So our first steps, honestly, we didn't know like anything. Neither Joe and I, we didn't know anything about like mortgages, buying a house, like what is exactly the difference between renting and buying, and we were new to all of this. So what we started to do is we started to look up apartment complexes, and we actually, I think we toured like 3, if I remember, and they were explaining to us the fees, like what was rent, what was included, was utilities included, like basically all the things. And so now in the current situation that we are in, I am going to tell you that saving your money to be able to put down a down payment and be able to own a place of your own is the better option versus renting. Our current like monthly whole bill situation is less than what we would ever be paying for just rent alone. So all of our bills, our mortgage, everything that we pay for in order to like have a roof over our head right now is less than just like the 1 monthly payment, because every place that we looked at, most of the places are like rent and then utilities are separate. Rent is crazy expensive right now. So I would definitely say if you are looking to move out, save your pennies and find out more information, educate yourselves about how to be able to have enough money to be able to afford or like get yourself a loan from the bank and buy instead of renting. So once we figured out the whole situation that like buying was the way to go and we should not be wasting our money to rent, we started looking into all of the factors that play a role into be able to buy. Like what was the market? The market at the time was still like relatively good. We still got lucky. We did get a relatively good interest rate. Now a lot of the interest rates are higher, just like with all the inflation and everything that's going on. I don't know too much about it because ever since we bought, closed on the house, that was kind of like game over. I'm happy that we have moved out. I do not need to look into that further for the time being because we will be here for at least a couple more years before we look to move again and be able to hopefully afford something bigger with more space for future family down the road. But for right now, or for the time that we bought in, basically it still is like this now. Your credit score, your down payment are very important. So being able to get a credit score higher and like boost your credit score. So the way we did it is as soon as we got serious, or not even as soon as we got serious, during the whole entire course that we were living with my parents, both Joe and I, we did have credit cards. Joe had a credit card, I had a credit card, and basically I would only be putting things on the credit card that I knew I was like reoccurring purchases. So like gas, diapers, things like that, and like slowly trying to build my credit. Joe had already had a credit card and just like through previous like transactions and like things in life that he had like bought. Obviously he had a bit of a credit score, so it was just literally working to boost the credit score, putting some of those bigger transactions, paying them off right away, and trying to get your credit score higher. If I know for a lot of people, you might not even have a credit score or you haven't looked into getting a credit card. Some people are like, okay, I'm just gonna buy everything with my debit card. And even right now, Joe has credit cards from the bank and he puts basically all of the transactions, not including bills obviously and everything like that, but everything that we like buy on the credit card just to be able to even further boost our credit score. So then that's like the credit score piece of it, is you need a credit score in order to be able to achieve any loan anything like that from your bank. You can also, both Joe and I learned, you can look into getting like a cosigner for your loan. And I know that people cosign on like car leases. You can do this for a mortgage. You can do this basically for any bigger purchase in your life. And it's basically having someone who you trust, who maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a very trustworthy friend, someone who on paper financially looks more stable, financially has like better numbers, if you will, you know, the credit score is higher, and the bank looks at that and says, okay, this person is also on this loan, so together we trust them and maybe we'll provide them with a bigger loan, better interest rates, and in the long run this benefits you because what you are paying for when you actually go to purchase property is less because your interest rates might be lower, you got a better loan from the bank, you might be able to afford more than you think you do at the time. Basically all the things. You do have to make sure obviously that you yourself have the money in order to be able to sustain yourself and pay for your bills, because in no way does the cosigner pay for your bills or anything like that. All they're doing is just giving you the kind of like the bump up on paper and allowing you to just get a better situation financially from the bank, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to go into more detail on that just because I don't know like the nitty-gritty and I don't want to give anyone false information, but you can look into a cosigner and like find out the whole process of that if that is something that would benefit you and would help you then be able to move out and buy your own property. But basically after looking into all the things, getting a loan from the bank, being more educated, we found a realtor. They sent us properties. We had like a budget, what we were willing to do. We had how much money we would be putting down for a down payment, and basically we did all of that. We did like all the calculations and ran all the numbers. Once our offer got accepted on the current house that we live in right now, we calculated like the difference in prices that it would be if we put this much money down or if we put this much money down, how much our monthly payment would be, basically what the whole like financial situation would look like for us. So that's how we were able to financially become independent, and we did not do this all by ourselves. With the help of our families, we were able to do this. They saw that we were very hardworking. We wanted to do this. The whole not having to pay for rent was huge. I know that sometimes that is not the situation for all families, that even though you're living with your family, they're not charging you for rent. I know that's not the same situation. We are very blessed and very lucky, but sometimes if you have a conversation, you know, with your family members or friends and they see, you know, that you're hardworking and that you're trying to put in the work to become independent and not just throwing your money around, you know, maybe people will be more willing to help. I don't know, that's just a thought. You have to be open, you have to communicate. Communication is key, not just communication with your partner, but also just communication with everyone helping you in the situation, because everyone most likely at the end of the day has your best interests in mind. And we were very open about everything. We were able to talk through everything with parents, with like realtors, with people from the bank, and everyone was so helpful, and that is how we were able to do it. I know it could be scary, but honestly, don't be scared. If you are in a similar situation or even younger, or maybe you're older but you still don't have, you know, the financial stability and independence, it will come. You have to work really hard. You have to put in the right steps in place. If you feel like you don't know much about it, you can always talk to someone about it, you know, arrange a meeting with someone, maybe talk with a relative, a friend, someone who does know more about like finances and things like that to help you budget, create a plan, and kind of like include everything in the plan that you would want. So for us, it was like school, but also to be able to become financially independent enough. Because let me just tell you this quickly. If Joe and I really wanted to, in the moment that I got pregnant when we were 20 years old, I think we definitely could have moved out, but it would just be moving out on rent. And rent, it'd be like throwing that money away in the garbage. We needed something, especially since at this point we had Joey on the way, and at this point we also knew that I still had no means of getting a better paying job. I was 20 years old at the time, still going to school. We basically knew that for us, renting was not a good idea, just because neither of us had like full-time jobs. We weren't like working towards something higher at this point. We needed to find something that would work for us. Like at this point, we were starting from zero. We weren't like working our way up, if that makes sense, because I think there's definitely a difference if you're already financially stable enough to know that, okay, I'm gonna rent for like a year while we look for maybe the market to get better, or maybe find a better price for housing in the area that we are looking to buy. That is different than like you are starting from nothing and you're gonna start renting because that is the only option you have. But maybe if you look into other options, you might be able to save your pennies by moving in with someone during the time that you are saving to help save you money instead of renting. So that is how we were able to do it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it for you guys. If you have any more questions for me, you can go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. I will answer all of them if you have them. I am an open book. Ask me anything, really. I won't get offended. I won't like say I'm not gonna share that. I'll share with you as much as I feel comfortable with sharing. And always, you can also DM me on Instagram. And if you reach out to me and you ask me, even though I don't make like a video on that specific subject, doesn't mean that I don't want to talk about it. If you want to talk to me about it, I am an open book. I will share everything with you as much as I can, like I just said, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking with you guys. I enjoy connecting with you guys. That is why I started my YouTube channel, just to be able to like connect with other moms and just help motivate you. So if you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I will see you guys in my next videos. Bye.